What is your favorite, most used app on your phone? Interesting. Okay, heard a lot of different things. Now, I know you're on a bunch of different stuff usually. I've seen some of your screen times. It's pretty much your entire day. More than, this is amazing sometimes actually, how often you're on it. So I know that a lot of you are on Instagram because I see you posting on it all the time. Some of you are not, but most of you are. And those of you that are, you use it in different ways, I've noticed, okay? Like some of you use it the way I do, and that is just to like keep up with friends, right? So this is you just go there, you look at your friends, or maybe to see some fun stuff that happened, that happened a little while back. Some of you are like meme people. Like all you do is you get on there and you look at memes, you screenshot memes and you repost, like this one, when your crush says she needs prayer and you're ready to lay on hands. I have seen this happen. Okay, actually we used to have this guy in our youth group that waited for a girl to be crying during prayer, and he was always the comforter. He was always like, let me help you, okay? I was like, you get away from her, all right? Or maybe I like this one, when you raise your hand in worship and the song ends. Anybody ever done that? Like you waited and then finally you're like, oh, it ended, okay. Really awkward now. And then some of you are really careful about the stuff you post, I noticed. But like you always make sure you look good and you got everything done. But some of you have not realized that you've been on Instagram for a long time. And when you were younger, you didn't pay as much attention to what you posted, right? So I just scrolled to the end of people's feeds today or yesterday, just taking a look, just looking, and I was very careful not to like, because you know how awkward it is when you like something from 2 years ago? You're like, what is PJ liking my stuff from 2 years? Anyway, so like, here's Jess, that's a pretty face, Brooke. Okay, not very many people are willing to post a picture of themselves when they're about to sneeze. It's like, I don't know, okay? Okay, Landon. Some of you are nervous about what I might have found, okay? Look at this, it's so cute. It's from 2014. Wow. Okay. Okay, yeah. That's Valley and Tina. Like, Valley, you were so cute. Things changed so much. No? Okay. Okay. All right. So, okay, I did all these because I wanted to think about something really quick. Have you heard about this, about what they call an Instagram influencer? Have you heard about this? Okay, so apparently there are people on Instagram that they are so famous or so popular, they have so many people following them, that companies pay them to post a photo. So the idea is that they are an influencer, so if they are like wearing the watch, right? Then other people are going to be like, well, I want to get that watch. He has that watch, or she has that watch. It's an influencer thing. It's nothing new, actually. They've been paying athletes this way for a long time. Like, if you see an athlete, like one of them will be wearing only Nike, right? It's like, they must really like Nike or Nike's paying them. And most likely, Nike's paying them, right? Because they want to do that. So, like, it works. Because if you are a track person and you see somebody win a gold medal, like in the Olympics or something, and they're wearing Nike shoes, you go, well, the fastest person in the world needs them, I need them, okay? And so it's the influencer thing. So apparently there's people on Instagram, they're so famous, there are some people that get paid up to, or even more than, $100,000 a post. Can you imagine, you get your phone out, right? You take a picture, and they give you $100,000. That would be pretty awesome, wouldn't you think? Now, obviously, these people have a lot of followers, and like if I posted, I wouldn't get paid anything. But the idea, though, is that if they're so famous or so popular or so many people like them that if somebody sees them, that they might get influenced by that, right? And it works, or they wouldn't pay them because these people are influencers. So the reason I'm talking about this because I think that you can be an influencer. Now, not get paid $100,000 a post. I don't know how to do that. You got to talk to somebody else. I don't know how to do that. But you can be an influencer. In fact, I actually think you're meant to be an influencer. In other words, you are somebody that has an effect on other people's behavior. You have an effect on the people around you and what they choose to do, maybe even the way that they think. In fact, you already are an influencer in a way. You influence the people around you, and the people around you influence you. But what I want to challenge us to do and think about doing, or we've been talking about the last few weeks, is being intentional about being an influencer. Being intentional about being somebody that has an effect on the people around you, and it being a positive effect, because we can have an effect and it be not good, but we want to have a positive effect on the people around us. And it wasn't my idea, as we discovered, okay? It wasn't my idea to be an influencer. It started with Jesus a long time ago, and we read this every week, and he said, "You are the light of the world." So point to the person next to you and say, you have really nice hair. Okay, no, okay. Let's try this again. Point to him again, say, you are the light of the world. Now point to somebody else, someone that you didn't point to. Make sure you smile and say, you are the light of the world. Okay. One more time. This time look up here, point to yourself and say, I am the light of the world. Now that might seem weird to you to say that you are the light of the world. He goes on and he says this about it. He says, "Let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven." In other words, that they could see the way that you live, the light that you have, and that might be kind of a weird word, and it would affect them. It would influence them. That it would maybe even cause them to praise your Father in heaven based on how that you live. So being a light to unbelievers is something that Christians are called to do. Now what that means is, the Bible, or people who wrote in the Bible, frequently called the world a dark place. And what they mean by that is that there's all these people who don't have understanding of who God is. They don't know what God wants to do in their life. They don't know what it's like to have a relationship with God. They don't know the peace of God that you've had. They don't know the joy of God that you've had. They haven't experienced any of that. And so what you are is you are a light. You bring understanding about who God is. You show them what it's like to experience God. And so the idea is that people could look at your life, the way that you act, the way that you talk, the way that you TikTok, whatever it is that you do, the way that you post, okay? The things that you are doing in your life, if they were to look at it, that it would be an influence that shined the light of God in their life. That they could experience maybe a little of Christ through you, or that through you they might get to know him. So we're called to be a light to unbelievers. But we're also meant to be an example to believers. So if someone doesn't believe in God, we're a light to them. We show Christ to them. But when somebody does believe in God, then we are an example. And this is the other verse that we've been looking at. And it's really our main thing for the last few weeks. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Just because you're young doesn't mean that you can't be a good example. Just because you are young doesn't mean that you can't be an influencer, doesn't mean you can't be a light. Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech and life and love and faith and purity. And sometimes we talk about how that Christianity kind of has a bad rap in culture. Like people think of Christians as being mean, being jerks, being, whatever, all kinds of different words that people, hypocrites and all that kind of thing. And it's easy to point our fingers at a bunch of Christians and go, well, you shouldn't do that and they shouldn't talk that way and whatever. But what if you just were the difference? What if you were just the example? And instead of pointing at what other people are doing wrong, say, you know what? I am going to be an example to the people around me of what a Christian is like. And that means that anyone that knows you knows what a Christian is really like. Whether they're a believer or an unbeliever, they would have an example of what a Christian looks like, what a believer looks like, because they looked at you. So we've talked about being an example in the way you talk. We've talked about being an example in the way you conduct your life. We've talked about being an example in love. And now, if you think any of that's interesting, if you go to iHeartAmplify.com, there's a link there. You can keep up with all those if you missed them and you think that might be something you're interested in. But today, we are on faith. And that means next week, purity. Okay. So, but this week, we're talking about faith. Now, this is a little bit problematic because if you're going to be an example of faith, you got to know what faith is. And a lot of people they can't even tell you what faith is, right? It's like believing. Like you have to know if you're going to be an example. Did you ever get called? Do your math teachers still call you up front to solve a problem on the board? Okay, I hated that. I remember getting called to the front and she goes, all right, you're going to show everyone how to do this. She wrote the problem and I looked at it, I was like, I got no idea. I cannot be an example of how to do it if I don't know how to do it, okay? You cannot be an example of faith if you don't even know what faith is, okay? So we need to understand faith because people get very confused, okay? Faith is not like the magical thing that gets God to move. Like, I got to get this magical. Did you watch Peter Pan growing up? Anybody see that movie? Okay, so like in Peter Pan, if he wants to fly, he needs pixie dust and happy thoughts. Does anybody remember this? Like you get that and happy thoughts, and then he goes, he starts flying up in the sky. Okay, That's what people think faith is, I think. Well, not pixie dust, but prayer. It's prayer and happy thoughts about God. If I just get my prayer and happy thoughts about, then I can just happy thought anything and God has to do it. Like, oh, God, $1 million, happy thought in prayer. Maybe we do need pixie dust. Maybe that's why it's not working. Right, it's not working because that's fantasy, not faith, okay? It's not where I come up with something and I get the right combination of stuff and then God has to do whatever I prayed. That's silliness. There's nothing in the Bible that even points to that. It's not what faith is. So we get confused with what faith is, so let's figure it out first, and then we'll talk about how you can be an example in that. So I think the easiest way to start would just be to look at the dictionary definition of faith. Now, it's not exactly the same as what the Bible would call faith, but it gets us started on the right path. Okay, so here's what, if you Google it, this is what you'll get. Faith is complete trust or confidence in, and I put blank, okay, because here's what I want you to understand. Faith has something, has an object. There's an object of your faith. There's something that you're putting your faith into. So if I was to say this stool, okay, is going to be my example object. I have complete trust and confidence that this stool can hold me up, okay? I have faith in it that if I sit on it, it can hold me up. Does that make sense? So it is the object of my faith. Your faith always has an object, something that you are believing in, that you're trusting in, that you have confidence in, okay? You understand? All right. Now let me ask you a question right now, though. Am I right now putting my faith in the stool? You're like, I can't tell. I don't know what you're feeling inside. Here's where, like, maybe this definition and where the Bible starts to differ. Because in the Bible, every time there's faith, there's action. Faith and action go together. So if I'm going to put my faith now am I putting my faith in the stool? Yes, because if it didn't work, I would be on the floor. Okay, you would get a good laugh. I admit, you get a good laugh. But I have faith in it. Okay, it's going to hold me. I know that. Okay, so now I'm putting my faith into it. There's an action, there's a belief, there's a trust that leads to an action. That's kind of giving us a little bit of an example of faith. So then, this is the dictionary. There's like a Bible definition of faith. And so if anybody wants to talk about what faith is, most people would go to Hebrews chapter 11. Okay, it's like 1 Corinthians 13 is the love chapter. Like if you want to learn how to be a good lover, you look at 1 Corinthians 13. Okay, and if you want to learn how to have good faith, people will say, well, turn to Hebrews chapter 11. And so, in fact, it even starts with faith is, and just like gives you a definition. So let me just show you what it says, okay? Hebrews chapter 11:1. Now faith is being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see. Did you ever ask a teacher for help, and when they gave you their explanation, you were more confused than when you asked for help? Okay, this is what happens to me every time I read this verse. Like, I think I know what faith is, and then I read this and I go, wait, what? I'm a little more confused now. In fact, and then if you read it in other translations, like, it gets even more confusing because some of them are like, faith is the evidence of things hoped for, the substance or whatever, and evidence of things not seen. And like it says it in other ways, and it makes me even more confused. And so I understand that. I want to maybe make it a little bit simpler, a little bit to understand. So we said faith is confidence and trust in something, right? So here, you can kind of see that is very similar to being sure of something. So faith is being sure, being confident, having trust in, okay? It's being sure of what we hope for. Now, faith has an object. So in this sentence, what we hope for is the object. Now, this is important. What we hope for is not something we just come up on our own. Oh, I hope for $1 million. So faith is being sure of $1 million? No. Okay, that's not it. What we hope for is in God. Our hope is God and what he has said he's going to do. So it is being sure of our hope, which is God. It's being sure that he is going to do what he said he's going to do. Now, we're going to talk about this certain of what we do not see. That'll make more sense than not seeing thing at the very end. You'll get it there. So this maybe didn't help you, okay? And I'd be with you on that. It made me a little more confused. So I kind of wrote out my own simplified version. Here we go. Faith is acting with complete trust and confidence in what God has said. It's acting in complete faith, trust, and confidence in what God has said. So I'm going to act, I'm going to do things, I'm going to behave a certain way because I have confidence in what God has said. Now, I said that Hebrews 11 is like the faith chapter because it talks about it through the whole thing. And in fact, maybe the guy who wrote it knew that when you read the definition, you were going to go, what? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So then he goes through and he lists all these examples of people who acted in faith and tells you a little bit about what they did. And some of them are pretty easy to understand. Some of them you have to like know their story to understand. So like, for example, he says, by faith, Abel offered a better sacrifice than Cain did. Now, if you don't know the story of Cain and Abel, that makes zero sense to you. You're like, okay, that doesn't help me at all. See, like what happened was Abel, he had some livestock. And the firstborn livestock he took and he sacrificed it. He didn't wait until he had more to make sure he was going to be good. He sacrificed the first one. His brother Cain says he waited over the course of time. So he did grain. And so he waited until he had a whole bunch and then said, oh, I've got a lot. Here's some for God. Now, you can see how one took faith and one doesn't. Because one, he gave the first thing he had. He didn't even know if he was going to have another one. He just had to give it and trust. So he did something without seeing. Here's one you'll understand. Okay, by faith, Noah, you've heard of Noah? Anybody? Big boat guy? Okay. Noah, when warned about things not seen, in holy fear built an ark to save his family. So, Noah built an ark, if you've heard that. But he didn't wait till it started raining. He didn't wait till the water started coming. Like, he could have waited, right? It's like, well, I got to see it first, okay? And when the water started, oh, I got to start building. Okay, that would not have been good for Noah. He would be drowned, okay? He had to start by faith. So he did something. He started building. Okay, you don't think of faith like this. See, I think people think faith means something magically, like a miracle has to happen. It wasn't that by faith he goes, Lord, make there be a boat. And there was a boat. No, by faith he started building a boat. Even though he couldn't see any rain. Who builds a boat on dry ground? That's just crazy. Okay, you don't build a boat in the middle of nothing where there's no water. But he did it by faith. Did you start to understand a little bit what it looks like to do something by faith? Here, I'll give you one more example from here. And there's a whole bunch. If you think it might be something, you could read Hebrews 11, and there's just all these examples. Okay, there's one more. You may have heard of a guy named Moses. Moses is famous for a lot of things, like parting the Red Sea. Like, he rose his hands and the Red Sea went like that, which would be really cool, like at a swimming party, I would think. Like, you're at the swimming pool and you're like, wait until someone's going to do a cannonball. Okay, that'd be kind of fun. Okay, so I'm going to show you Moses on the screen, a little bit of what it says. So it talks about him in a couple of things, but one of the things he did by faith is this. Let me show you. It says, that was important. I sometimes forget things. Okay, so what I want to help us understand, though, is what does faith look like in your life? Okay, because we talk about all this kind of stuff, and if we don't know what it looks like for my actual life, then it doesn't really do us much good. So we're going to look at what it looked like in Moses' life, and that's going to help us figure it out in our life. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter, which again, if you don't know the story of Moses, you're like, this doesn't make any sense at all. So he was like adopted into Pharaoh's household, right? He wasn't an Egyptian. He was one of God's people. And so he had the option of just living as basically the king, Pharaoh's adopted grandson, which would have meant lots of money, lots of, pleasure, lots of fame and notoriety, probably women, all that kind of stuff. He had an easy life. And this says by faith, when he grew up, he refused to be known as her daughter. In other words, he said, I'm not going to do that, because doing that would have also meant serving their gods and not doing what God had called him to do. So by faith, he chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy pleasures for a short time. Now, this sounds like the opposite of what people think faith is. See, a lot of people think this is faith. Faith is everything is perfect. No. Like, if I just have enough faith, all of life will be puppy dogs and rainbows and cotton candy, right? That's not faith at all. That's not what it means. This is what Moses' faith did. Because he had faith, he chose to be mistreated. He chose to do what was right, even though it wasn't easy. He chose to act on what he knew God had said, even though it wasn't easy, even though it was hard. So let's go back to that. What does faith look like in my life? Well, for Moses, it looked like stepping out of something that was easy to do something that was hard. For Noah, it was doing something that didn't make any sense because God told me to. What it might look like in your life is this: being obedient to what God has said. That's what all of those people did. They all did what God has said. They were obedient to what God had said. So in different stages of your life, this is going to look different. In different days of your life, this is going to look different. For me, there was a stage when that meant that I was single. And I didn't really like it very much because there was these opportunities that would come along, but I knew that this was not the person I was supposed to be with because of certain reasons and certain things. And by faith, I stayed single until I met Tracy, right? There was a period of my life. There was a time when God told me, when I was in college, to start a Bible study in my dorm room. Now, you may look at me right now and go, well, of course, that makes sense. Like, it'd be easy for you. How is that even faith? How's that hard? But what you don't know is the first day, I invited all of my friends that I could, and 12 people came. And they're in my living room, and I'm in the bedroom, and I am literally shaking, and I can barely breathe because I'm so scared to talk in front of people. Now, it's changed a bit since then, but at the time, this is the truth. I had to open the door by faith and walk in there because I was like, I don't even know, I can't do this. I can't do this. I was like, some of you would be terrified to get up and speak. I was extremely terrified. But by faith, I had to do that. Well, within 2 years, it was the largest student-led ministry on campus. And it grew and did all those other things. And so, but it started by doing something by faith. Now, I believe some of you, God has told you to do something by faith in your school. Some of you, he told you to start a prayer group or a Bible study or something like that. And you thought about it, you're like, what if nobody comes? What if people, make fun of me? What if this doesn't work out? What if you just stepped out and did something by faith? What if you were just obedient to what God said? What if you just did what he said? Sometimes it's going to look like stepping out and doing something that's uncomfortable. Sometimes, like here's Moses. He leaves this easiness of life and goes and does something hard because that's what God has for him. What if for you it means, some of you might be this. God says, hey, I want you to move to a different group of friends because those people are tearing you down. Well, what if I'm alone? What if I don't know anybody? What if I don't find it? What if you just step out in faith and do what God asked you to do? That's what faith is. When you know he's spoken to you, you step out and do it. He speaks to you through his word. Sometimes you're going to read the Bible and you're going to go, oh, that's what I need to do. If you're obedient to it, that's acting in faith. Sometimes he's going to speak into your heart and you're going to know. Sometimes it's hard. Most of the time it's hard. Sometimes it's easy, but it's stepping out in faith. And you're not always going to know the outcome. If you knew the outcome, there wouldn't be faith, would it? Faith is making a choice to step into what he's told you to do, even if you don't know what it is. So this is what faith looks like in your life. Being obedient to what God has said. And what has he said to you? I don't know. I know some of the stuff, but I don't know what he's told you specifically. And for some of you, you need to look in your life and go, okay, here's an area I know God has talked to me about, and I have not been willing to change, have not been willing to obey. If you want to be obedient to what he said, then you'll be living a life of faith. Then you'll be an example of faith. This is how you be an example of faith. You begin to be obedient to what God has said. So there's one other thing I want us to think about when it comes to what it looks like in your life, okay? I'm going to end with this one. So I'm going to need help, though, from somebody. From somebody that likes peanut M&Ms. That's what I'm going to go for here. Okay, anybody? You want to do it Vegas? It's your birthday, isn't it? Okay, well, come on up. I'll pick you for that reason. Okay. Just stand where my stool was, okay? Right there is perfect. I'm going to move this stuff out of the way here, okay? So I'm gonna put these over here for now, okay? And we're gonna do something. So actually, why don't you step back for just a second, because I'm gonna show you all something real quick. So there's one more verse here. For we walk by faith, not by sight. This is a verse that teaches us a lot about faith and what does faith look like in my life. So here's one of the ways it's gonna look. It's gonna look like there's gonna be times when I have to walk by faith, not by sight. So let's demonstrate this. So why don't you come on out here and stand right there? Okay. So there's the M&Ms. That would be what you were hoping for, right? You can look this way. You can turn this way. That's good. Okay. So if I was to just say, well, go get them. Now, and you just walked over there and grabbed them, that would not really be walking without sight, right? Because you can. Okay. So let's just keep going. Let's make this a little more practical here. Can you put this on? It's just like a blindfold. Okay, can you see?
No.
Okay, no, she can't. All right, so now, if I said, go get the M&Ms. In fact, you could do that if you want, okay? She's doing pretty good. Okay, why don't you stop for a second? Okay, now, take a blindfold off for a second. Okay, so that was still not really walking by faith, not because you were just walking blindly, okay? Walking blindly is not faith. Well, I'm just going to try things and see what happens. Okay, you might end up falling off the stage. Okay, luckily she was angled the correct way. That's not it. Why don't you go ahead and pick up those M&Ms for me and bring them over here. We're going to try one more thing. Let me have it. Oh, that's right. That one's empty. I already ate these. Okay, so we're going to put the blindfold back on. We're going to try walking by faith. We're going to try to actually face the audience. Okay, so we're going to try to walk by faith. Now, walking by faith. Faith is this: being obedient to what God has said. Okay, we said that, or acting in confidence and trust on his word. So I'm going to, play the place of God here. Okay, so all I need you to do, are you good? Yes. Okay, so just listen, okay? Turn to your left. Stop. A little more. Stop. Take a step forward. Take another step forward. Another step forward. Turn to your right. A little back to your left. Take a big step forward. Look at the nervousness. A little to your right. Take a step forward. Take another step forward. Take another step forward. Okay, right in front of you is a bucket. Just, you feel that bucket? Now, there could be, okay, now, okay, all right, now, so go ahead and take your blindfold off. I want you to stand here for a second. You can have that, but just wait just a minute. Okay, here's my point, okay? Some of you are spending your whole life going after something when God has something way bigger for you. You're going after what you can see. Maybe it's this relationship, maybe this is future or this thing, and I'm just gonna go after this, and this makes sense, and this is what I gotta do, I gotta get it. And God has something so much bigger for your life if you will just begin to listen to what he says and to act on it. And by the way, the truth is, the things that you are pursuing that are not of God, you know what they're gonna end up doing when you get them? They're gonna leave you feeling empty. And you thought that it would satisfy, and you thought that it would be enough, and it's been proven over and over again, it doesn't really matter what the reward is. When you get there, it leaves you empty if it wasn't what God had for your life. But if you'll begin to listen to his voice, you'll begin to maybe open your scripture and listen to what God is teaching you and say, you know what? I'm gonna walk by faith. That doesn't make any sense. What if he has me walk off the edge of the stage? I don't know. I'm just gonna do what he says. If he has me fall on my face, it was for a reason. There's something good down there for me. And so I'm just gonna walk by faith. You can go sit down. So, wait till the end to open those, okay? Wait till we're done. Your friends are gonna be crunching on them the rest of the time. We're almost done though. Here they go. What does God wanna do in you if you would just walk by faith? What are you distracted by that's keeping you from walking by faith? Here's my dream for you. We had that hall of fame that said, by faith, Noah did this. By faith, Moses did this. And if we said, what's an example of how you live by faith? We turn to that. What if we could do this? What if somebody came to me and said, how do you live by faith? Like in school, what's an example of how I live by faith? And then I could go, I'll tell you. Look at Sam. He's how to live by faith. What if I said, I'll tell you. Look at Mercy. She's how you live by faith. She's an example of faith. I'll tell you, look at Jackson. He's an example of how to live by faith. I'll tell you, look at Parker. He's an example. Now, I could pick your name. Look at Brandon. He's an example of how to live by faith. What if I could pick your name and I could say, this is somebody that you can look at. They live by faith. They don't just go after what they can see. They don't just, go after do the easy thing and whatever. They listen to God and they act on it. That's an example of somebody that can live by faith. I believe that can be every single one of you. And it's worth something to do. It's worth being that way. The life that you live is so much more exciting than a life that just goes after the easy things. Will you be an example of what it means to live by faith? And there will be other believers who look at you and go, I gotta do more. Man, when I look at them, I get so pumped. I gotta be like that. So be an example of living by faith. And this is how you do it. Just begin to obey him. Step out and do what he asks you to do. So we're going to end tonight with just a short time of prayer, because maybe you have heard something from God you needed to do and it sounded hard, and so you just wouldn't do it. So this is what I'm asking you to do. Take a step of faith. You may not see how it's going to work out, but you can still walk in faith. So we're going to end with just a time of prayer. And if you need prayer for anything in your life, it can be what we talked about, it can be about anything else in your life. We like to pray for you because we believe God could do amazing things when we pray. And so we're going to pray for you if you need prayer for anything that's going on in your life. There'll be others going to the back to pray with you. Father, I thank you that you love us. I pray that you would help us to be people of faith, that we could shine a light to this world and be an example to others. In Jesus' name,